Shalom, y'all here once again, giving all praises to Yahweh,
Yahweh
Ba'ashem,
Ba'ashem
Yahushua.
Yahushua Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. This is Ecclesiasticus 14. I'm going to start at verse 16, but I'm reading in the Good News translation. Actually, I'll start at 14. So it's Ecclesiasticus 14 and 14 in the Good News translation. It says, don't deny yourself a single day's happiness. If there is something you want to do and it is lawful, go ahead. Someday all that you have worked for will be divided up and given to others. So be generous, but also be willing to receive from others. Enjoy yourself, for you will not find any pleasure in the world of the dead. The human body wears out like a piece of clothing. The ancient law decrees that we must die. Human beings are like leaves on a spreading tree. New growth takes the place of the fallen leaves. While some of us die, others are being born. Everything made by human hands will decay and perish, along with the person who made it. It is a happy person who is concerned with wisdom and who use good sense. Anyone who studies the way of wisdom will also learn her secrets. Go after wisdom like a hunter looking for game, looking into her windows and listen at her doors.
Because wisdom is the most precious thing that you can have on this earth, especially nowadays. Most people go through this world and they don't even know how to navigate. They ain't living right. They don't even know how to deal with certain situations. A lot of people can't even explain the times that we living in now. But that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding comes from the scriptures.
It says, look into her windows and listen at her doors. Camp as close to her house as you can get, and you will have a final place to live. Build your home there, safe beneath her protecting branches and shaded from the heat. You know, the heat being those nuclear missiles, those ICBM missiles.
Yeah, that they try to protect everybody with the golden dome. You heard about
Yeah, I
that?
heard about that. See how that works.
He said, the guy said that it's going to be able to intersect every missile that's going to be shot down. I mean, every missile that's going to be shot down on America.
It's impossible. That's not prophecy. Missiles have to hit America.
Because that's impossible.
Looking for that scripture in Revelation where it speaks about the missiles. Because the missiles, they're going to be in the millions. Because you know how you got the warheads? It's like, you got the warheads and you got the delivery system.
Right.
So it's like a cone, and then within the cone, there's like multiple missiles, like a plethora of missiles. Actually, get another precept while I look for it.
There's Revelation 18:8. So let's start off somewhere. Yeah, let's start at 7. Actually, I'll go to the point. There's Revelation 8:8. I'll read it in the NLT. It says, therefore these plagues will overtake her in a single day, death and mourning and famine. She will be completely consumed by fire, for the Lord power who judges her is mighty. And that her being judged is America, Babylon the Great. It says, and the kings of the world who committed adultery with her and enjoyed her great luxury will mourn for her as they see the smoke rising from her charred remains. That's talking about the other nations as well that do business with America. Everything here is getting ready to be destroyed. So you can imagine all the other countries that do business with America, they're about to, take a hit as well.
Yep.
It says, they will stand at a distance, terrified by her great torment. They will cry out, how terrible for you, O Babylon, you great city. In a single moment, God's judgment came on you. You see? It's a little bit more. It says, the merchants of the world will weep and mourn for her, for there is no one left to buy their goods. See, like we read in Ecclesiasticus, America is going to be utterly destroyed. You're not going to have people to make anything, and the people that did have any, did make things here, they're going to be destroyed up with their creations.
Also, the other nations, they're not going to be able to sell nothing to America no more. Because that's how China got rich. China pretty much took on the role of the U.S., becoming great producers, while the U.S. became great consumers. And that's the leverage that Trump thought that he had. The fact that America's economy, makes everybody else rich and is a great consuming economy. But in reality, it's backfiring. And it's really only hurting the U.S. economy, as well as other economies in the world, but mainly the U.S.
You got a precept?
Yeah, Revelation 9 and 16. I'll start off at verse 15. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of man. The third part of man is talking about Esau. And the number of the army, the horsemen, were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. So what's 200,000 times 1,000?
200 million.
Yeah, so the amount of missiles that's going to be shot on this place is going to be in the millions. It's going to be impossible to intercept all those missiles. I'll keep going. Verse 17, and thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and of the jacinths and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. So John the Revelator is describing the missiles as best as he can. He said the heads of the horses were as the heads of the lions. So that's the cone, at the head, right? And out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. So that's also going into the delivery system, because you got the delivery system in the back that launches the missiles. It's like that.
Listen on that.
Yeah, that's it.
Pretty soon. Revelation 18 should start at 17.
Where you at?
Revelation 18 and 17. It says, for in 1 hour such great riches came to nothing. Every shipmaster, all who travel by ship, sailors, and as many as trade on the sea, stood at a distance. You see, like we went into the 200 million missiles that's coming to pelt America. Sure, all of them may not hit, but you gotta imagine, just a quarter of 200 million, what is that? It's saying America would be destroyed in 1 hour, which makes sense with all those missiles coming to destroy this place. Imagine all of America being destroyed in 1 hour. That lets you know the Lord ain't playing. That's not even the count of the chariots as well. So there ain't gonna be nothing left standing in America.
Out of precept. since we missing the chariots, this is Isaiah 66:15. For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and his chariots like a whirlwind to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. So the chariots is known as this UFOs in modern day language, right? But the thing is though, before the destruction comes, I mean, we gotta look out for the mark of the beast.
This is Jeremiah 51:1. It's reading the NLT. It's Jeremiah 51:1 in the NLT. It says, "This is what the Lord says. I will stir up a destroyer against Babylon and the people of Babylonia," again, which is America. It says, "Foreigners will come and winnow her, blowing her away as chaff. They will come from every side to rise against her in her day of trouble."
Yeah, every side. Because it don't matter if you're on the East Coast, the West Coast, you're gonna feel that destruction and that fire. You're not gonna be able to escape it. Really, your best bet is to leave the U.S. Do it now if you can. Because what they're trying to do is they're gonna collapse the economy. And once that happens, then they're gonna bring in their new currency, their new system, digital system. So you think you have it hard now? You think you can barely survive? You're barely able to live? Just wait until the collapse happens. You know, people complaining about the cost of living and the cost of groceries, the price of eggs, and how there's barely any jobs out there. People are getting laid off left and right from big companies. You know what I'm saying?
I be getting emails about like job listings from like job boards I had like got a job through like years ago or whatever. And like when you see what they're willing like to pay people, you're like, yo, nobody's going to work for $16, like $16.50. Like who's going to work for this shit?
And job is just an acronym for just above broke. Just over broke. I said above job.
Like
Man.
that's crazy.
Yeah, just above broke, they say.
Who the fuck is trying to get up and go to work for 16?
Just over broke.
$16.50 in this economy. You can't do nothing with that. A grown adult. Like I can understand somebody in high school, your first job getting paid that, but a grown adult making $16.50 in 2025.
Yeah, people are complaining about how, like, say if you work at McDonald's flipping burgers, they're a multi-million or billion-dollar corporation. You should be able to make money over there to live.
You would think so, right?
You would think, but nah.
That's too much like right.
But the thing is, though, you see the cost of rent and a mortgage nowadays. Like, that's gonna cost like 60% of your income.
That shit is discouraging. At least it should be. Spending 50 to 60% of your income just on shelter, you're never gonna get ahead.
And then that's not even including car insurance, debt that you may have. What else? Groceries,
It's your necessities.
children.
All the necessities.
So the American dream is over with.
Something gotta give. You can't have it all. Especially in the times we're living in now, you having to make decisions on what it is you want and what you can go without.
That's why I believe that these tariffs is just controlled demolition. They're gonna collapse the economy, man. They're doing this on purpose. Because everything we see and the way that we're headed, it's not gonna be good long term, you know? I got a precept though, 2nd Ezra 16:21. Behold, the victuals means food. So, behold, victuals shall be so good, cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. So that's like a false delusion. Because we was living in times where like food was more affordable, the price of groceries was cheaper. You know, you think you're right, things is good, things is okay, you know? We can afford to live, we can afford to eat. But now that's not so much the case now, in 2025. Like I said before, people complaining about the cost of living, how much it costs to feed your family. Shoot, you even go to restaurants, it's expensive.
This is Matthew 24 and 37. It says, but as the days of, so like it says, but as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage.
Yeah, that's a good precept because it was business as usual.
Right.
Nobody thought that the end would come. Nobody believed Noah that when he said the earth was gonna flood, you know, nobody believed him. And it's like the same thing with us. Nobody believes us when we say that America is in its last days. It's gonna be destroyed by thermonuclear destruction. You walk around and ask the average American citizen, what do they think is going to happen? What is the future of this place? They're not even gonna know.
You know, they still trying to stick to their 5-year plan.
They think that they're going to be around 20 years, 30 years from now to collect on their 401k. That shit's going to be dried up. I'm telling you, just wait until the economy collapses.
Matthew 24 and 38.
Because something's got to give.
It says, for as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. And you got the same thing that's going to happen here in Babylon the Great. You know, we're out here, people walk by, going about their life, like we just, you know, talking amongst ourselves. You know, we really prophesying to the wind. But in the times that come when all hell breaks loose, they're going to remember the days we was out here and what we was talking about. But by then, it's going to be too late. You know, what we're out here doing, we're putting in our, you know, the legwork, so to speak, because we want to have a seat on that chariot. We're not trying to be stuck here when all hell breaks loose and the missiles is coming down.
Yeah, and this is the time where we also get to express ourselves. Because we can't talk about this type of stuff with the average person. You know, we're on a different level of thinking than people. Thanks to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah.
Yeah, they're going to think you're bugging out. You talk like this around like just a regular person that's not in the faith, they're not going to get it.
That's why I be chilling. If I'm around regular people, I don't talk about this stuff. I don't talk about the Israelites, the truth. If you do that, people are gonna think you bugged out. They're gonna think you're crazy, and you're just gonna be talking over people's heads. And I know how it is when you first come into the truth. You tell everybody, it's like, oh, you know you're an Israelite. You ever heard about the Israelites? You know what I'm saying? Talk to them about the truth. You may even go to prophecies, and they don't want to hear that.
I don't.
They caught up in this rat race.
You find that to also be true. It's like when somebody that was in the truth or they was dealing in the truth, then they completely go back in the world. That shows you can't just tell anybody the truth. You got somebody that actually believed it at one point, and then they turn their back on it. So how much more somebody that just doesn't believe it altogether?
Yep.
Jeremiah 51 and 3, back in the King James. It says, I shall start at the second verse. It says, and will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her, and shall empty her land.
Yeah, because when you fan a fire, it makes the fire grow. It makes it continue.
It says, and shall empty her land. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. Against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow. And against him that lifteth himself up in his brigandine, and spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are thrust through in her streets. See, it's just talk about, you know, when all hell breaks loose. It says, for Israel hath not been forsaken, nor Judah of his power, of the Lord of hosts. It says, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel, flee out the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord Yahweh's vengeance.
Yup.
He will render unto her a recompense.
Recompense, meaning the Most High is going to judge Esau and America for all the wrong that he's done to the Israelites. But back to 2nd Ezra 16 and 21, because I didn't finish it. Behold, the victuals shall be so good. Victuals means food. Victuals shall be so good, cheap upon the earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. So we're living in these last days. A lot of people don't know how they're gonna be able to afford their next meal, how they're gonna eat. I mean, think about it. If you out here on your own, this is the combined increments era. Everybody's just gonna have to consolidate. But the thing is, people in America, they try to get ahead and, get substance by taking out loans and taking on debt. So if you want to get a degree, you got to get a student loan debt, compile that. You want to get a house, you got to get that mortgage. So the more debt that you have, the more it's going to affect your credit, and you're not going to be approved for certain things that you need in this country.
And the worse your credit is, you're going to have to pay more for the same thing. Like say if somebody had 800 credit score, you had a 570, you're going to be paying more with your 570.
But if everybody's fucked up, then who's going to be in position to buy a house?
Right.
Who's going to be in position to buy a car?
You got people that really can't afford it now, but they still do it. You got a term called house poor, where all the income you make, you put it right back into your house and you have nothing left for yourself. So are you really getting ahead?
That's not even accounting all the rest of your bills.
Right. Like imagine how much money, like it's so easy to just spend money in a day. Like say you gotta go get gas, groceries, and maybe like,
Gas is like $60.
Exactly. Groceries, and then say you gotta get like your hygiene products all in one day. Think of how much money you're spending in a day.
Right.
And the price of everything is going up. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 1 verse 6. It says, seeing it is a righteous thing with the Most High to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you, and to you who are troubled rest with us, when the Lord Yahweh shall be revealed from heaven.
Because you ain't getting no rest in America. All you do is work, and your money goes towards bills. But it's designed like that on purpose to keep you in financial slavery.
It says that to you who are troubled rest with us, when the Lord Yahweh shall be revealed from heaven with his mighty angels, and flaming fire taking vengeance on them that know not the Most High, and that obey not the gospel of our Lord Yahweh. It says, who shall be punished with everlasting destruction from the presence of the Lord and from the glory of his power, when he shall come to be glorified in his saints and to be admired in all them that believe, because our testimony among you was believed in that day.
Yeah. When people are going to believe us is when all hell breaks loose. When society collapses. When cars mad loud. When society collapses. When the grid turns off. When they come out with the mark of the beast, you're not going to be able to do anything with yourself unless you submit. I mean, just think about that. You ever think about that? Like, that's going to be the hour of temptation.
Yeah.
It's so obvious, the writing is on the wall, how the economy is just sinking. And they've been doing it little by little so that people don't panic. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, think about where we were 2 years ago or even 5 years ago. things was running better, a little bit better. Look at it now, though. Cost of living has increased more and more.
This is Proverbs 20 and 17. It says, bread of deceit is sweet to a man, but afterwards his mouth shall be filled with gravel. Every person is established by counsel, and with good advice make war. It says, he that goeth about as a talebearer revealeth secrets. Therefore meddle not with him that flattereth with his lips. Whoso curseth his father or his mother, his lamp shall be put out in obscure darkness. An inheritance may be gotten hastily at the beginning, but the end thereof shall not be blessed. Say not thou, I will recompense evil, but wait on the Lord Yahweh, and he shall save thee. Diverse weights are an abomination unto the Lord Yahweh, and a false balance is not good. Man's
Yeah,
going
because in the old days, how they used to measure money, they used to actually have like weights.
balance beam.
Yeah, balance beam.
It says, man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? Is it a snare to them? So like, is it a snare to the man who devoureth that which is holy, and afterwards vow to make inquiry? A wise king scattereth the wicked, and bringeth the wheel over them. The spirit of a man is the candle of the Lord, searching all the inward parts of the belly. Mercy and truth preserve the king, and his throne is upholden by mercy. The glory of young men is their strength, and the beauty of old men is the gray head. The blueness of a wound cleanseth away evil, so do stripes the inward parts of the belly.
I got a precept. Psalm 7 and 9. Oh, let the wickedness of the wicked come to an end, but establish the just. The just are the Israelites, and the wicked is Esau Edom. For the righteous God trieth the hearts and reigns.
Read that again.
Proverbs 7 and 9. Oh, let the wickedness of the wicked come to an end, but establish the just. For the righteous God trieth the hearts, and reigns. So we're being tried right now. We're all being battle tested. We're going through adversity. I can keep going. Verse 10. My defense is of the Most High, which saveth the upright in heart. Yahweh judges the righteous, and Yahweh is angry with the wicked every day. So there's not a day that goes by where the Most High is not angry with the wicked. If he turn not, he will whet his sword. He has bent his bow and made it ready. He has also prepared for him the instruments of death. So you could say that this is talking about the missiles. He ordaineth his arrows against the persecutors. So the arrows and the missiles is a metaphor. It ties together.
Got a precept. This is Proverbs 14 and 26. It says, in the fear of the Lord is strong confidence, and his children shall have a place of refuge. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, to depart from the snares of death. In the multitude of people is the king's honor, but in the one of people is the destruction of the prince. I gotta read that again. It says, in the multitude of people is the king's honor, but in the one of people is the destruction of the prince. He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty of spirit exalteth folly. A sound heart is the life of the flesh, but envy the rottenness of the bones. Turn this shit off. Right there with the shit off. It says, he that oppresseth the poor, he that oppresseth the poor reproacheth his maker, but he that honoreth him hath mercy on the poor.
Yeah, so the society doesn't care about the poor. And you can see it now how this administration is trying to cut Medicaid, Medicare, welfare. Which who is that for? That's for people that are obviously poor. So you're gonna cut that and do what? What are you gonna do with the funds? You're gonna repave roads? You're gonna invest it into the military?
Now they're gonna fatten their own pocket.
It's gonna be more kickback to these politicians that are voting to be able to deport U.S. citizens. You heard about that? Which I don't give a damn. That's fine. You want to deport Jake, you would really be doing them a favor, because once the missiles drop, who's gonna survive?
Where you even gonna send Jake?
Yeah, send Jake where?
Where? The Proverbs 14 and 32.
Maybe they're doing that so that they can get into the prison systems. Because remember that El Salvadorian president met up with Trump, and they was talking about shipping imprisoned U.S. citizens over there to El Salvador. So maybe they're trying to bring in like a modern day slavery type deal. They're gonna get a contract set up. We're gonna deport these individuals to another country. And we're gonna get paid and make money off of them.
I can see that. All I know is Americans, they're not gonna make it in an El Salvadorian prison. That's a whole nother ball game.
That shit is a camp, a death camp. You ain't even living, you just surviving. You just existing. You see how they living?
About 2 bathrooms and 2 toilets in the whole prison.
And there's like 20 dudes in the same cell, stacked up.
That's a recipe for disaster.
But that's what they get though. They was wilding.
Yeah.
They was wilding in El Salvador.
Facts.
I heard it was like the murder capital of like the world at one point. Wasn't it?
Lawlessness. This is Proverbs 14 and 32. It says, the wicked is driven away in his wickedness, but the righteous has hope in his death. Wisdom resteth in the heart of him that hath understanding, but that which is in the midst of fools is made known. Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is the reproach to any people. The king's favor is toward a wise servant, but his wrath is against him that causeth shame. That's it right there.
Thank God. He's leaving.
Look at his ass. Simple.
I got a precept. Ecclesiastes 7 and 14. In the day of prosperity be joyful, but in the day of adversity consider the Most High Yahweh has also has set the one over against the other, to end that man should find nothing after him. So the reason why we're in this predicament, the reason why we're living like this, is really to go through that adversity, you know. There were times when we was living better, you know, when we had our own lands. Remember how when King Solomon was ruling, he had the kingdom? It was like a precursor to the kingdom. And I think it was like, what? I think it was like 70 years or something like that of world peace. There was no war.
When he reigned?
Yeah, there was
I
no
believe
war.
it was 70 years.
Yeah, 70 years.
Was it 40?
40? Yeah, that sounds about right. 40. So those was prosperous times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so King Solomon's reign lasted 40 years.
Yep.
This is Psalms 92 and 12. It says, the righteous shall flourish like a palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. It says, those that be planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our power. And those that are planted is talking about the elect, the chosen. It says, they shall still bring forth fruit in old age. They shall be fat and flourishing, to show that the Lord is upright. He is my rock, and there is no unrighteousness in him. That's it. That's the point.
Alright, precept. Same chapter. Ecclesiastes 7 and 3. Sorrow is better than laughter, for by the sadness of the countenance the heart is made better. So you can say that as a nation of people, the Israelites are depressed or in a sad state. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. So you're a fool if you don't acknowledge the fact that we're oppressed. You're a fool if all you want to do is party and be entertained. You know, there has to be a level of seriousness and consciousness that kicks in at some point. Because just look at this world, look at this society. Can you really say that you appreciate your lifestyle here? Do you think that this is as good as it gets? And obviously we know the answer to that question. We know it gets better than this. Life could be better. So that's why we're not believing in the American dream, selling ourselves down the line so that we could do whatever we have to do to get rich. You know what I'm saying?
The American dream, when you think about it, like now in the times we're living in, it costs too much. Like it's not even worth it no more. Imagine like years ago, a house that you would have bought for 500,000, that same house would probably be like what, 800,000 now? Something stupid, something ridiculous.
I mean,
the American dream is too expensive. It's not worth having.
I was breaking it down, and you get a 6-figure paying job. That means what? You had to go to school.
Yeah.
So you're in student loan debt. That could be anywhere from 30 to 60,000. Some people owe more.
Or you started your own business and you got to dedicate all your time to the business.
That takes debt. We need a loan for that.
And time.
So it's like you really can't get rich or get ahead in 2025.
It's too hard. It's too hard. Like it just does. You don't yield as much anymore.
The dollar's depreciating in value.
That's why it's like it's not even really worth it. Just dedicate your time to the Lord. At least you know there's a victory in it. This is Psalms 99. I'm gonna start at the top. It says, "The Lord reigneth; let the people tremble." So I can read it again. It says, "The Lord Yahweh reigneth; let the people tremble. He sitteth between the cherubims; let the earth be moved. The Lord Yahweh is great in Zion, and he is high above all the people. Let them praise thy great and terrible name, for it is holy. The king's strength also loveth judgment. Thou doest establish equity. Thou executest judgment and righteousness in Jacob.
Yep.
Exalt ye the Lord Yahweh our power, and worship at his footstool, for he is holy."
So
That's
one of these days, the Most High's name is going to be magnified. Everybody's going to know him and respect his power through his son.
This is Psalms 89 and 15. It says, "Blessed is the people that know the joyful sound, they shall walk. O Lord Yahweh, in the light of thy countenance. In thy name shall they rejoice all the day, and in thy righteousness shall they be exalted. For thou art the glory of their strength, and in thy favor our horn shall be exalted. For the Lord Yahweh is our defense, and the Holy One of Israel is our King. Then thou spakest in vision to the Holy One, and saidest, I have laid help upon one that is mighty, I have exalted one chosen out of the people. That was the point. And I was just going into, David, how he was chosen.
One chosen out the people. It's talking about Yahweh, right? He's the one.
16 verse of the point. So Psalms 51 and 12. It says, restore unto me the joy of thy salvation, and uphold me with thy free spirit. Then will I teach then will I teach transgressors thy ways, and sinners shall be converted unto thee. Deliver me from blood guiltiness, O power. Thou power of my salvation, and my tongue shall sing aloud of thy righteousness. And you see, because we know the power, that the scriptures have, because we was in the world at one point, and look at us, we're out here on the highways and hedges, faithfully preaching this word of the Lord, and bid into the marriage, whoever is worthy of it.
Because if we just sat on this knowledge, we hit our talent and the napkin, it's like, who would we be?
Yeah.
Like, what would we do? If anything, we would get bored with the truth. Right? That's why people fall off. Because if you don't go into these scriptures, the scriptures say that faith comes from hearing the word. So one way that you hear the word is when brothers do videos, they post they lessons, they go into prophecy. And it's always good to be reminded of prophecy and, scriptures that you may not have heard in a long time. So if we wasn't doing this, then that would mean our faith is weak and it's getting weaker and weaker.
This is Romans, go to 15 and 13. This is Romans chapter 15, verse 13. It says, now the power of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, that ye may abound in hope through the power of the Holy Spirit. And I myself also am persuaded of you, my brethren, that ye also are full of goodness, filled with all knowledge, able also to admonish one another. Nevertheless, brethren, I have written the more boldly unto you in some sort, as putting you in mind, because of the grace that is given to me of the Most High, that I should be the minister of Yahushua to the Gentiles, ministering the gospel of the Most High, that the offering up of the Gentiles might be acceptable, being sanctified by the Holy Spirit.
The Gentiles is talking about the Israelites that didn't know that they were Israelites.
Right. The Hebrew Israelite foreigners. It says, I have therefore, whereof I may glory through Yahushua in those things which pertain to the Most High. For I will not dare to speak of any of those things which Yahushua hath not wrought by me, to make the Gentiles obedient by the word and deed, through mighty signs and wonders by the power of the Spirit of the Most High, so that from Jerusalem and round about, that's the point. I made the point. JK got nothing.
I think it looks kind of fun.
You got a preset?
Yeah, let's see.
I had a preset. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 4, verse 37. It says, by measure hath he measured the times, and by number hath he numbered the times. And he doeth not move nor stir them until said measure be fulfilled. So yeah, all hell can't break loose. Chariots can't come and save the elect out of America until all the prophecy is fulfilled. You know, there's not one prophecy that's not going to be fulfilled until, you know, Yahushua returns. It's not like everything else is going to happen and the one thing we're waiting on isn't going to happen, but we still going to get the kingdom. It doesn't work like that.
Really, the most important prophecy right now that we should be looking out for is the mark of the beast. Because that's when we know that destruction is not too far after. You know what I'm saying? But they're laying out the groundwork for the MOTV. You know how they coming out with the digital ID. If you want to fly, you gotta have what's the name? It's the new ID.
The real ID.
Yeah, the real ID. If you want to get on the plane, you gotta have a real ID now.
The real ID.
Or a passport.
Like, is that like an enhanced license?
Yeah. Or a passport. The next thing is the CBDC system, central bank digital currency, which they already said in Europe how they want to expedite the process. They was talking about how the deadline is October this year.
Let's hope so. Shit.
That's what they said. But they said the only thing that's holding it up is government officials, passing the laws, getting, the laws in place. But they already have the technology, you know what I'm saying?
It's already elsewhere in the world.
Now, I did a video like a couple weeks ago called the CBDC update, and I reminded everyone how Swift, which is the largest bank transfer service in the world, they're gearing up to bring out the CBDC software, and the timeline with that is within the next year. That's what they said. They announced it like last year. So that means that fast forward to today, another year from now, that's one more year. So 2026.
This is Proverbs 1 and 32. It says, for the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil. So those of you that's trying to climb the socioeconomic ladder so you can get, footing here in America, you're going to lose in the end.
Read that again.
Proverbs 1 and 32. It says, for the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whosoever hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil. So those of us that's on the path, trying to seek salvation, the elect, to be more specific, they're not going to have anything to worry about in the time to come. They're going to be shielded from all hell. How does that go? to Psalms 91:7. It says, 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. So imagine a scenario where you just have dead bodies just next to you. And this is just the life you're living, where you're just walking down the street and you see people like just laid out on the streets. You're gonna need the Spirit of the Lord to be with you in that day.
But when the missiles drop,
Right. Not only to keep a clear head, but to be able to cope with what you're seeing out here. Because you're about to just see all hell break loose. It's not gonna be normal at all.
yeah, pretty much the U.S. is going to turn into a third world country.
For real.
I mean, what's really the difference between the U.S. now and another third world country? What? Convenience? The fact that you can still get a package delivered to your house?
That's why people are like still civilized right now. But you gotta think of the world when there's no law enforcement here to come answer your phone calls, to come give you aid. It's gonna be every man for himself out here. So you gotta think about what that's gonna do to the reprobates out here. You know, the people that's been living lawless. Even with law enforcement, you know, set up. You got people that don't give a damn. So you're gonna have those people, you know, what do they call them? Marauders? A group of just lawless people just in packs together, taking over people's cribs, taking over their resources. It's gonna get like that. Civil war is gonna hit the streets of America.
Yeah. And the only reason why it's dressed up and looking good now is because you got people that migrate and immigrate to this country, so they figure it like this situation is better than it was in our previous country. You know, and also, you know, let's say like Northern Kingdom, they have like more of a like family structure and a stronger nucleus. So they don't mind combining incomes and combining, you know, the increments to live. When it really like you want some third world status living. You know what I'm saying? That defeated the whole purpose of you coming here. You came here just for all your money to go towards bills and you barely able to have money left over for yourself. There's nothing here in America except pain and struggle.
Let's get our oldie but a goodie. Revelation 18:4. It says, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. So you people that's just, you know, out here in the world, not grafted into the truth, you have nothing good coming for you. You know, like your end is really just destruction. Like you're guaranteed to be put to death. Like, at least us, we have hope, dealing in the faith that we are of the elect. But if you're somebody that just putting yourself first and trying to climb the, you know, the social ladder, your demise is imminent. You know, trying to chase the American dream.
You're gonna lose points trying to gain points.
Right. Like this place is over and you can't tell.
You want to pursue a career, well, you have to go to school. You don't have the money yourself to pay for the school, you have to get a loan.
Imagine going into college.
It's gonna be borrowed against a 5% interest rate.
Imagine graduating high school, going into college, and going into the workforce in 2025. I can't think of anything more like discouraging.
I think it's really more like a 6% interest rate.
I wouldn't doubt it.
We looked that up. The average interest rate for student loan.
Not doubt it. Like imagine going into like the workforce and everything like now in 2025. Think of how discouraging that must be.
Yeah, you see people getting laid off. There's no jobs hiring. You look around, you see how businesses they're trying to lease their buildings. Nobody's trying to lease their buildings for a business. You know what I'm saying? How many for lease signs you see?
So I tell you, the American dream is too expensive. People can't afford it no more. No matter how hard you work.
It says the average interest rate for federal student loans varies depending on the loan type and borrower. For 2024 through 2025 academic year, the interest rate for direct, subsidized, and direct, unsubsidized loans for undergraduate students is 6.53%, while it's 8.08 for direct unsubsidized loans for graduate or professional students. Direct plus loans for parents and graduates or professional students have an interest rate of 9.08%. So we're talking at least 7%. Imagine borrowing $20,000 or $30,000. Shoot, some schools cost what? $20,000 a year to attend, or $10,000. You're lucky.
So, yeah.
So if you go to a university, you're gonna come out with like $30,000, $40,000 in debt. You know what I'm saying? On the low end, it could be like 10 grand a year, maybe 15.
But the thing is, like, when you're talking to people like that's in college going through that system, their mindset is, okay, I'm gonna take on this college debt,
And then I'm gonna make the money.
exactly. So afterwards, when I get out of school, I can find a job and live comfortably.
But you're about to see how your degree ain't worth shit
At all.
on a piece of paper, because jobs and people are getting replaced by AI and technology.
And how many people are going to school and graduating getting $100,000 a year job?
How many of those jobs are even out there? And then how many people are graduating by the semester, and then you got to compete with them?
Right. Imagine you get a job to make $70,000, $80,000 a year, but you ain't got shit. You got all this debt, and you playing catch up, making $70,000 to $80,000 a year. You still behind, but you think because you can afford a car payment and you might be able to have an apartment, you can live comfortably. But that's all coming to an end.
So you even got women out here with debt. They went to school.
I'm telling you, that's their process. That's their thought process, though. This is how I'm going to be able to take care of myself. 'Cause, they're not going to humble down and try and go 50-50 with a man. That's too much like right. So they're going to try and take matters into their own hand by, getting degree after degree, putting themselves in more debt. Like you said, taking 2 steps forward, just taking a step back, just to take 2 steps, taking a step forward to make 2 steps back.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you still lose in the end. You just, walking it down. Like it's eminent. You're just taking your time like that. You got a preset?
No.
Go to John 10 and 26. This is John 10 and 26. It says, But ye believe not, because ye are not of my sheep, as I said unto you. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father, which gave them me, is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. So again, this truth is only for who it's for. Those that's out there in the world, on the hamster wheel, trying to play catch up, keeping up with the Joneses, this isn't for them. Because this requires you to put all your faith in Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai to deliver us out of this world. The mindset that they're in to try and just keep up here in America is a totally polar opposite mindset. They want to stay here. They want to exceed here. They want to be successful here.
Right.
And that's polar opposite to the mindset you have to have in this faith.
I had a precept. 2 Ezra 14 and 8. That thou lay up in thy heart the signs that I have showed, and the dreams that thou hast seen, and the interpretations which thou hast heard, which is dealing with prophecy. For thou shalt be taken away from all, and from henceforth thou shalt remain with my son, and with such as be like thee until the times be ended. For the world has lost his youth, and the times begin to wax old. For the world is divided into 12 parts, and the 10 parts of it are gone already, and half of the 10th part. So that's going into like how old the world is. You know what I'm saying? So we've been on this planet. Really, when you do the math, the world can't be any more older than like 15,000 years. Yeah, 15,000. You know how they say it's like millions of years old? You know what I'm saying? So let's say that the world was like 15 million years old. You mean to tell me within the last couple hundred years or so, we've just now made this much advancement in technology with AI? You know what I'm saying? Shit, if the world was millions of years old, there'd be like flying cars, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Y'all appreciate everyone take us out with?
Yeah. This is Matthew 6:19. It says, "Lay not up yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doeth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doeth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." And those people that's trying to climb the socioeconomic ladder, that's where their heart is. And those that's out there on the highways and hedges and doing the work, that's where their heart is. And we gonna see what reward each person receives in the end. We're gonna see who is really setting themselves up for the future in the times to come.
Exactly. So with that, we're gonna close. Shalom. Until next time.